Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan video. In this video we are going to take a look at the Shadow Dragons stage of the Ultimate Red Zone GT edition. So obviously this is one of the, well, it's the penultimate Ultimate Red Zone stage. I think for the most part, obviously Red Zone's been a pretty rough time for a lot of players, but this one's not so bad. It is very long. It is the longest Ultimate Red Zone stage by a country mile. It's definitely one of the longest stages. It's definitely by far the longest stage. And you can tackle it a couple ways. Generally speaking, bringing stackers is the most viable kind of solution here. It will guarantee you victory, just at a very slow pace. Your hardest stages will be the first stages, as those stages will require you to kind of survive the initial damage until you can start stacking to a pretty decent point. And from then on, it's just the risk of a type advantage or type disadvantage super attack that can potentially throw you out, but generally you should be okay. I can't foresee it being too much of an issue for you, but obviously, you know, you do want to try and, you know, be a little bit wary of taking, you know, type disadvantage supers or anything like that, realistically speaking. With that being said, it's all pretty straightforward. All of the Shadow Dragons are immune to sealing, immune to stunning, immune to attack lowering, and immune to defense lowering, which is obviously a big pain in the butt. If you're using this team, you do need to be somewhat careful in this first phase, especially about AGL units. Generally speaking, there is one of each type of the Shadow Dragons, so you'll see that there is, you know, attack unit, a physical unit, an AGL unit, an Eng unit, strength unit, and the final phase is physical. The first Shadow Dragon, which is Haze, you know, he's tech, he's the only tech type unit, so generally bringing AGL type units is going to be the best bet for the long run, because you won't face type disadvantage at any given point in time, which is generally where you're pretty strong. The final two phases are also strength and physical type, so I highly suggest that you obviously plan for those as well. You don't want to, you know, be caught out by those different phases there. So try and, where possible, you know, balance out those final phases by being pretty strong in some of the other ones. You know, I just think overall you should have a bit of a better time if you do so. Now, with that being said, I think, you know, like I said, bringing stackers is perfectly viable here in this event. And yeah, the hardest phase for this team was definitely the first one, because of the fact that I did no damage. As you can see, still not really doing that much damage, just trying to really get the units to stack up and just kind of build through, letting them transform, letting them get to the stage where they can really build up a pretty strong kind of base, defensively and offensively. But yeah, it was definitely quite a challenge, this event. I think, you know, for a lot of players it could be something that's quite challenging. You know, for the most part it's definitely a stage, I want to say, where, you know, you just need to take your time, be patient, make the more conservative decisions, especially if you're not, you know, you don't have units like the God units, you don't have those kind of units that, you know, generally speaking, can give you a pretty good kind of like fast stacking basis and still do very high levels of damage. You know, like this team that I'm using, which is obviously the yeah, Hybrid Saiyans team. It's a strong team, but it's also a very slow team. It's a very playing it safe kind of team, and that's fine from a build perspective, but just be aware that it could take you a while. This was definitely my longest fight by far. I don't think in any way, shape or form was this even remotely close to being a very quick run. And yeah, I think generally for the most part, like if you are going the play it safe route, just always be aware of that. You'll see multiple times throughout the video I do things like try and place units that can grab an extra stack here or there, especially in the beginning. It's very important that where possible you try and grab extra stacks. Like you'll see in that last turn, I took a calculated risk to place the AGL Gohan first, allowing him to grab another stack of defensive super, and then also allowing the Mystic Gohan or the Gohan Teen to also stack as well. It's just one of those things. It just really enables us to build their defense, to grab that little extra bit that'll help them set up for the next phase, to continue setting up, to continue building those stacks, to continue just growing into the fight. There will be a stage where you do feel quite comfortable, but you always do need to be a little bit on edge. There are units that can get you killed, especially in this team build. At any given time, you can always still die. It's one of those things, I guess, with this. It's one of those things, I guess, with this, team build, with the way this whole team works, with the way stacking and the way the fight works. You always seem to be just on the edge, especially with type disadvantage units. Like there are definitely phases whereby we would still probably have died if we had taken a type disadvantage super. So there is still an element of luck involved. It's never so easy as to just, like, oh, I'm just going to leave them to stack and everything's going to be fine. Still be aware of where the enemy is placing their attacks. Be aware of where you can minimize damage. If you're feeling unsafe, use an item. You'll see I do that, and it saves me a couple times. Just play it safe. Like in the beginning I used the Whis. It just helps you get set up, it lets you get things going, it lets you build the defense, and it lets you start off with a stronger base, with more health, with just more everything. So it's very difficult to say, it is easier in a sense that it's very straightforward. It's got a very nice leading in with a pretty nice curve along the way. It is still quite a tough event, and because it's so long, losing it and resetting is a very, very painful experience. You do not want to lose this fight, you do not want to reset. It is absolute ass when you do. It is not fun at all to reset this fight. It literally feels like it takes forever, and so it's more like a test of it's more like a test of patience, really. It's a test of willpower almost, this entire stage. So just keep that in mind when you are taking it on. And yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know about the stage now. We'll talk about the team build itself. So yeah, obviously, so just to kind of discuss the two bosses we've killed, and then the bosses to continue. So each boss has a tiny gimmick. There's nothing too crazy. It's not like like a Omega Shenron or Sin Shenron, where they kind of like seal you in place and seal your super attacks and do this and do that. They all each have their own kind of minor gimmick that gets progressively worse or less worse depending on obviously what your certain weaknesses are to the team. So yeah, in terms of like the whole event itself, the first boss doesn't really have anything going for him, and when I say that I mean doesn't have any specific kind of mechanics or anything. Then the second one, which is Rage Shenron, he nullifies Ki Blast supers, so you want to make sure that you have some physical attacks so that you're able to take him down. He doesn't heal or anything from it, so there's really no need to panic too much about it, but obviously you do want to be aware of it and make sure that you have some kind of damage for him, although it is a great opportunity if you do bring a lot of Ki Blast stackers to stack defense at that point. Then Oceana Shenron will sometimes randomly change Ki Spheres. This is also something that can irritate you and cannot irritate you. It doesn't really phase me too much, just simply due to the fact that I have orb changes, Gohan and Trunks. Bringing at least one orb changer will just make this time a lot easier. and kind of just prevent you from having too difficult a time against her, because it kind of counteracts her, whole I'm going to change all the orbs and make things difficult for you. Also, having good linking partners naturally will also eliminate that threat of her orb changing. But if you bring units that rely on orbs, especially orbs for ki, you could find yourself in a little bit of an irritation against her. Fortunately, she doesn't seem to last too long. You also technically have to kill her with a super attack, although I feel like that's a lot more, it's a lot harder to kill her without using a super attack. In theory, it just doesn't feel like something that you should struggle with, but I guess you can, technically speaking. Then the next fight after Oceana Shenron is against Naturon, and he can seal one of your units. There's a 40% chance of that, so that can be quite frustrating. It's also a little bit of a step up. I feel like Naturon's a little bit harder hitting than Oceanus by quite some distance. I definitely feel it when I hit, when his super attacks hit. I definitely feel like they hit quite hard. So I would be aware of that at least. Then the second to last one is Nova Shenron. Nova Shenron can evade attacks. That's pretty much it from his side. And then the very final, the very last one is Ice Shenron, and he can lock character switching. So generally that's why I want to try and avoid having any N-type units, because you don't want them to get locked. It's just not something that's going to be good for you overall. So I highly suggest against that, having N-type units getting locked against Ice Shenron is generally not a great idea. Ice Shenron is a little bit weaker than Nova Shenron, or at least it feels like it. He hits a little bit less. He hits about the same level of difficulty, but he you can definitely feel that he is weaker. He takes more damage. So generally it feels like Nova Shenron is kind of the boiling point of the event. I feel like once you are safely handling the Nova Shenron phase, you can not call it a wraps, but you generally are quite fine to take on the event. You shouldn't really feel any major issues or anything like that. Obviously, it can change, and you can struggle here or there, but yeah, generally speaking, if you make it through Nova Shenron, then you're pretty good to go. So try and do that, and yeah, just see how it goes. Really, you shouldn't really have too many issues, but just see how it goes, and yeah, see how things happen for you. Yeah, with that being said, we'll start to finally talk about the team build. So like I said, bringing stackers is going to be your best bet, or at least one of them, and it's going to help you to really eliminate a lot of the threats, because it's such a long event. Bringing stackers is viable. Their defense should scale pretty well throughout the event, and so I can't see you having that many issues. Then again, it is entirely possible that you do have issues even with stackers, so it is always good to bring some other kind of units if possible. You do want to bring something that's going to be able to heal you, keep you protected, damage reduction, something like that. You can't just have pure stackers. You won't eventually get through the stages. That's why you'll see I have a unit like Physical Future Gohan, because he can get really good defensively quite soon. Obviously that helps us out a lot, and you need units like that. You cannot just run stackers unless you have a lot of rainbow stackers or something like that, but running only stackers isn't a really super viable situation. It's also why I bring the AGL Future Gohan and Trunks, because they are reliable, and they bring a heal and a revive with them, and generally speaking it's very helpful to have more mechanics like that. I'm not saying you specifically need a revive, but having a unit that can heal or just have damage reduction or just be a tank the whole way through is going to be a lot more viable and a lot more helpful for you than than just bringing stackers alone. It's not that obviously stackers aren't good, it's not that you can't run a full stacking team, but generally speaking it's always good to have some kind of backup plan. So always keep that in mind when you are building your team. Evasion as well, super effective here, none of them prevent evasion. So yeah, there is just other team builds that you can run. Don't feel the need to be caught in the trap of, oh, it's a long event, I'll just bring stackers. Make sure those stackers have something else, whether it's damage or evasion, transformation or heals or damage reduction, revives, whatever they can bring to the table. If you can grab something else that'll help your kit, it's good. Because like I said, it's a long event. And if you reset this event, you're just going to have a really bad time, like in your headspace. You just are not going to feel great running this event over and over and over and over and over again. So for me, I always suggest bringing something that just allows you to control the fight, allows you to just heal yourself up. If it's AGL Gohan skill, which you see I used quite early on, and that was just to keep me topped up, to get me through that first phase, to let my units start the stacking process. But yeah, so we cut across here just a little bit, just because the phase against Nova was just going to take forever, basically. But yeah, I did use a Whis against Nova to keep me safe, you'll notice that. And I did use one at the back end of Shenron, obviously. So yeah, it is just like I said, use your items where possible, don't be scared, don't feel like you can't use items, don't feel like, you know, using items are bad. Use them where you feel vulnerable, and rather do that than suffer later on. It's just way better for you, and you're gonna feel a lot better having done that. At least I think so, because yeah, otherwise you don't want to end in the situation where you feel like you've just gone 20 turns and you died from a super because you didn't pop a Whis for no reason. Like, popping that Whis will buy you 2 extra turns. Your units will stack then, you might find the super attacks line up more favorably. Just don't take the risk. Just don't take the risk and you'll end up having a better time. At least that's what I think. And that's what I did. So yeah, everything's running a bit better. Everything's running a bit smoother here. Obviously, like I said, after this phase we go against we are now in the final phase. And he does hit hard. I mean, you're going to see him hit physical Gohan here for 313,000. But generally speaking, you should be okay, because these phases or these fights, you have such high defense on a lot of the other units that you can heal up pretty easily. So yeah, and then in terms of the units we brought, obviously we went pretty heavy on the stackers. Hybrid Saiyan's great. I used double strength Gohan as leads because that's more health, more attack, more defense than if I run the tech Gohan. Well, especially more health, and more health is good for us. Health is wealth, and especially you know, in this event, I feel like having the extra health just allows us to screw up a little bit more. It gives us a little bit more leeway, especially in the beginning, where you can take a lot of super attacks and the chip damage, or you know, the ability for the units to hit you pretty tough can sometimes give you issues. And so I definitely think, you know, that it was a good call to go that route. Then obviously we've got the Tech Gohan, great unit. You know, does big damage, does a lot of good stuff for the team. Stacking unit, he stacks really, really well, has guard against all types, so yeah, yada yada, he's really, really solid. Then we have AGL Gohan, also a unit, very, very solid. You know, his active skill, as I mentioned already, we utilized, and we utilized to the best of our abilities, something that really, really helps us out. Then, of course, we also have the Future Gohan. His damage reduction builds up really quickly, and he's a very, very just stable unit for us to utilize. It's always good, you know, to have units that just give a lot to the team, and that's what these units do. So then we've got Tech Trunks, a bit of an older unit now, but in an event like this where it goes so long, he can just stack so well, and he still does very good damage as he gets going. You know, he starts to get up to that 4 or 5 million mark. In a long event, he's still more than perfectly viable, which I think is great. And then we have these strength Gohans who just kind of float around. If their guard doesn't activate at certain points, they will cause us to take quite a bit of damage. On the same token, they are just very, very good. They provide support, they provide good defense, and offensively they're really, really great. You can actually switch them in at this point against the Ice Shenron to really maximize your damage as well. You could also transform the Tech Gohan as well, although I didn't see the need, so just kind of left him as stock standard. And yeah, that is pretty much it for the team build and for everything really. So obviously a long event, guys, like I said, just super duper tough. You can tell from the length of this video, I think, just how long this event is. And like I said, it's not the hardest. It's not going to make you feel like it's impossible, but it's because of that that you need to be careful. Like, it's not going to make you think it's impossible. It's not going to make you feel like you have no chance in this event, but because of that you need to just be very careful. Be incredibly careful of underestimating the event. Be incredibly careful of, you know, putting yourself in harm's way. And yeah, just try your very best to minimize and maximize your opportunities. You'll see me, I obviously in this situation very much so made sure that I obviously you know, handled the event. I used my revive skill where necessary, I used everything where necessary, and yeah, just made sure that I got myself into a good position. I didn't want to be caught out, I didn't want to not have the ability to finish the event, and I played everything safe. I took the revive, took the heal, moved to the next turn, and yeah. But even in this situation, there's still risk. If we got caught here, here in this situation with a super attack, before we fired our super attack, we would have been in a very bad situation. We would have probably died, or been very close to dying. So it just shows you that there is, you know, always that risk, especially if you don't play everything to a T. Luckily we get away with it, which I think is very friendly on us. Could have been way worse. So yeah, that is a very lucky maneuver for us, I do think, at the end of the day. But yeah, definitely I would say you need to be careful. You need to be very careful of how you handle these events and how you do these things. And yeah, just play things safe where possible, if you can. Obviously it is always difficult. It's not super easy to just always make the right plays, but at the end of the day, you don't want to waste 30 minutes of your life running this event, especially if you're playing it safe with a stacking team, or if you have to. But yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment if you need help, and I'll see you next time. Bye.